17, held today, the 1st of December 2025. And let me also welcome the NESA personnel and as well as those that have joined us for this meeting from different platforms. On that note, I would want to request the members that we adopt the agenda as presented. The agenda for our open session has got 6 items. And members, any indication of your adoption of the agenda by show of hand? Thank you, Ms. Masetti. I also support the adoption. We move on to the next item, item number 4, declaration of interest. Are there any verbal declarations to be made by members? Thank you. There is none. I also have no verbal declaration to make. But on that note, let me request everyone to kindly complete the declaration of interest form that has been provided and return them back to the secretary for this particular committee meeting. On that note, members, before we get on to the agenda items, let me first introduce the members of the committee. I will start with myself. My name is Nomalanga Stole. I'm the chairperson of the RC and a CEO of NESA and a member of other structures of the energy regulator. I am with Ms. Masetti, who is the full-time regulator member, who is the member of the REC first and chairperson of the pipe gas and as well as the electricity subcommittees. And she sits on a number of committees and subcommittees of the energy regulator. Ms. Masetti, would you want to greet everyone that has joined us for this meeting?
Good morning to you, Chairperson, and good morning to the staff members and everyone who's following this meeting today. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. On that note, we are going to be starting with our items on the agenda, which are in line with the advert that was issued out for the meeting. We've got 6 items on the open session of our meeting. We'll start with item 5, which is under the regulation of the pipe gas. Mr. Ngumalo, if you can introduce the submission and/or direct us as to who is going to be presenting it to the committee this morning. Over to you, Peter.
Thank you, Chairperson. Mr. Masamba will come in quickly and introduce the submission, just in line with your earlier suggestion, just to again indicate the correction that we are making in relation to the paragraph 3, which relates to the delegation of authority. We are correcting that paragraph to read that the correct reference in the delegation matrix is 1.1 of the delegation matrix. Thank you, Chairperson. Mr. Mashamba will come in to introduce.
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, members of the Regulator Executive Committee. Good morning, management, fellow colleagues, and good morning to stakeholders as well. Chair, I'll just confirm the correction on paragraph 3. Say the delegation, in terms of the pipe gas delegation matrix, it should read as clause 1.2.1 of the pipe gas delegation matrix. Chair, the purpose of this submission is to request the Regulator Executive Committee to consider and approve the following: an application by Sasol Gas for a license to construct a gas distribution facility in the Benoni area of Ekurhuleni Metropolitan Municipality in the Gauteng Province. The decision and reason for decision, as well as the license condition. Chair, in terms of the clause 1.21 of the pipe gas delegation matrix, the Regulator Executive Committee is authorized to consider the granting of new licenses with license conditions for the construction of pipe gas facilities with current value of assets that amounts to 100 million or less. The construction of the distribution facility under consideration will cost less than 100 million. Therefore, this makes the Regulator Executive Committee to be the delegated authority to consider and approve this application by Sasol Gas. Chair, Sasol Gas is applying for a construction license to construct a gas distribution facility that consists of 14-meter pipeline and a customer meter station in Benoni. The application was made in accordance with Section 15(1)A, read with Section 16 of the Gas Act. Chair, the detailed specification of the distribution facility and the mechanical flow diagram are contained in Table 2 and Figure 1 on page 7 under paragraph 5.5. Chair, the distribution facility that Sasol Gas seeks to construct is aimed at replacing an aging customer interstation that is installed at the gas customer site in Benoni. Sasol Gas customer is currently fed with gas through an old design screw-type customer interstation that does not allow continuous monitoring and metering of gas during maintenance. Through this construction license application, the screw-type customer interstation will be replaced with a modern design customer interstation, which is of a flash type that can allow continuous metering during maintenance. Chair, Sasol Gas has also indicated that the new CMS will also be relocated further away from the customer's alloy casting facility and move towards the edge of the customer servitude to reduce occupational and process safety risk. The applicant has indicated that it will outsource the construction of the facility in line with the company's internal procurement processes. The applicant has also assured NERSA that it will be liable for all the construction costs and its customers will not incur any cost. Chair, the applicant has confirmed that the management has set aside money to finance this construction, and an audited financial statement was attached to this application to confirm Sasol's financial abilities to the satisfaction of NERSA. Chair, on 22 August, the applicant published a notice on this license application on 2 newspapers. The notice solicited comments on the application for a period of 30 days, which expired on 20 September. Additional to that, Chair, on 7 October, NERSA also published a notice in Sowetan and Build newspapers and invited the public for the public hearing that was scheduled for 13 November. There were no registered parties to present or attend the public hearing, and the public hearing did not take place. Chair, the applicant has assured the energy regulator that it will comply with all applicable standards and codes and regulations during both the construction and operation of this facility. The applicant has indicated that it will construct, operate, and own the distribution facility. In demonstration of its technical and administrative abilities, Sasol Gas indicated that it will rely on its management and staff complement and have attached documents reflecting the position and experience of its employees. The energy regulator has in the past accepted this as demonstration of the applicant's administrative and technical abilities. Chair, in conclusion, the recommendations are on paragraph 14.1 on page 11. Thank you, Chair.
Chairperson, you're on mute.
Oh, thank you. I was speaking to a muted mic. Thank you, Mr. Mashamba, for the presentation. And any questions, issues of clarity or points of enhancement? Ms. Moseti?
Thank you, Chairperson. I am fine with the submission, Chair. I support the recommendation.
Okay. No, I also do support the recommendation, but just to raise one concern with regard to the time it has taken for us to finalize the submission. It's been quite long, from March to December, and also maybe the manner in which we record the reason on paragraph 6.1 to say that NERSA is obliged to follow longer licensing processes. I don't think it's right for us to state that, because even if the licensing process is long, it's our responsibility to make sure that we are efficient. Let's not delay things just because we are allowed in terms of our licensing process to take so many months. Let's try and be efficient, because we are regulating entities that really wants to continue with their businesses and contribution to the economy. So that particular paragraph, let's just try and not have it in any other future submission, because it gives a negative impression of how we do our work. Thank you very much. That's just a point to be noted for future submissions as well, Mr. Ngamalo and Mr. Mashamba. Ms. Maseti, you may come in.
Thank you, Chairperson, for raising that. I missed that line, that statement, but I am in support of what you are saying, and all of the submissions will be in time. They need not get to the 60 days that is there on a straightforward submission. Thank you, Chair. I'll make sure that they do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the recommendations are on paragraph 14 of page 11, which is to request the REC to consider and approve the application by SASOL for a license to construct the gas distribution facility in Benoni area of Ekurhuleni municipality in Gauteng province, and to also approve the decisions and reasons for decision. And lastly, to also approve the license conditions. On that note, I think Ms. Masiti, thank you for the support of the recommendations are also due. On that note, Mr. Mashamba, the submission is approved. We then move on to the next one, item 6. Mr. Numalo, if you can assist or guide the committee as who is going to take the meeting through that particular item. Over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson. This one will be Mr. Kosa or Mr. Ngubeni. But just to quickly make that correction again, under paragraph 3, that should be 5.2.1. Thank you, Chair.
I'm muted. Thank you. Over to you.
Good morning, Chair, members and colleagues. So the one that is presenting is Gordon Kosa. Thank you for that. So today I'll be presenting to you SLG's full year regulatory financial reports for the period 1 July 2024 to 30 June 2025. The purpose of this submission, Chair, is to request the REC committee to approve SLG's full year RFR for the period 1 July 2024 to 30 June 2025. Now I'll be moving on to the section that talks to the administrative procedures in compliance with the RRM Volume 1. So the auditor's report confirms that SLG's RFRs have been prepared in accordance or in compliance with Section 2 of the RRM Volume 1. It further indicates that SLG complied with the RRM requirement to submit the RFR within the 4 months after the end of the financial year. A summary table that shows the assessment of SLG's compliance with the administrative requirement is found or is attached and marked as the Annexure A. Now I'll move on to the auditor's report. So according to KPMG's opinion, SLG's regulatory financial report fairly reflects or represents the financial information in all material respects as of 30 June 2025. Now I'll move on to the comparison of the maximum price projections and the audited trading cost. So on table 1 under paragraph 5.9, it shows the variance between the projected figures submitted in the application for the FY25 maximum price application and the actual data reported in the FY25 audited regulatory financial reports. So the identified variance of X amount represent a potential payback amount in the subsequent or in the following application cycle. I'll now move on to the financial ratios. So SLG's trading activity RFR financial statements were assessed using the following key ratio categories, which one is profitability ratios, 2 liquidity ratios, 3 capital structure debt ratios, and number 4 efficiency ratios. So the overall annual performance for FY24-25 reflects a strong financial outcome that is underpinned by sustained revenue growth and improved operational efficiency. I'll now move on to the recommendation, Chair. So the recommendations are found in paragraph 14 of the submission. Thank you very much, Chair. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kosa. Any questions, issues of clarity or points of enhancement on this particular submission, members? I don't see any hand, and I also don't have any questions or issues or points of enhancements on my side. On that note, the recommendation, members, I'll read them into the record. It's paragraph 14 on page 10, and the recommendation is that the REC approves the SLG's full year regulatory reports for the period 1 July 2024 to 30 June 2025 submitted in compliance with the requirements of the RRM's Volume 1, and that particular RFR is attached as Annexure C. On that note, members, by show of hand, I do support, and I think Ms. Masetti indicated her support. Thanks, Ms. Masetti. This submission is approved, Mr. Kosa. We then move on to the next one, which is item 7. Mr. Numalo, over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Item 7 will be Mr. Melusi Ngoveni. Again, just to confirm that correction, paragraph 3, that should be 5.2.1. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairperson and members. The purpose of this submission is to request the REC to approve SLCNG's full year RFRs for the period 1 July 2024 to 30 June 2025. Chair, our evaluation of these RFRs will focus on the administrative procedures, the audit report, and the comparison of the estimates compared to the audited trading cost information and the ratio analysis. Chair, on Annexure A, it shows the assessment of SLCNG's compliance with administrative requirements of the RRMs. SLCNG has complied with the requirements of the RRM Volume 1 and 3. The audit report submitted by KPMG indicates that SLCNG RFRs represent fairly in all material aspects the financial information as at 30 June 2025. Table 1 on page 4 compares the audited RFRs to the estimates used in the maximum gas price application for the trading costs element. The evaluation shows, the calculation shows that a potential clawback as indicated in Table 1. That clawback, Chair, is mainly due to the lower volumes achieved by SLCNG. Chair, Table 2 on page 6 shows the financial ratio benchmarks used by NERSA in analyzing the financial performance of the licensee. The 5 benchmark companies are published by NERSA for the determination of the EBITDA margin as per the maximum gas price methodology. These 5 companies then were used to also then determine the financial ratio benchmarks. Chair, the overall performance of SLCNG is positive as indicated by the profitability ratios that are above the benchmarks. Chair, the recommendations are on paragraph 14, page 11. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Ngoveni. Members, any questions, issues of clarity, or points of enhancement? Okay, thank you. Noted, Ms. Masetti. I also don't have any issues with this particular submission. Then I'll take members to the recommendations, paragraph 14 on page 10, and the recommendation is that the REC is requested to approve SLCNG's full year regulatory reports for the period 1 July 2024 to the 30th of June 2025, submitted in compliance with the requirements of the RRM's Volume 1, and that those RFRs are attached as Annexure C to the submission. Thank you, by show of hand, to indicate approval. I do support. Thank you, Ms. Masetti. We then move on to the next item, which is item 8. Mr. Numalo.
Thank you, Chairperson. This one is Mr. Ngoveni again. Just to emphasize the paragraph 3, that should refer to 5.2.5.
Thank you. Over to Mr. Ngoveni.
Thank you, Chairperson. The purpose of this submission is to request the REC to note the Egoli Gas implementation plan submitted in compliance with the requirements of the RRMs. Chair, in terms of sections 2.6.2 of the RRM Volume 1, each licensee is required to submit an RRM implementation plan and an implementation cost estimate to the energy regulator for approval when starting to implement the RRMs. Chair, Table 1 provides an analysis of the salient features of the Egoli Gas implementation plan. The project plan, Chair, as submitted by Egoli Gas, indicates a phased approach to the implementation of the RRMs. Each milestone has been clearly defined in the project plan. Through engagement with Egoli Gas, it has also been confirmed that adequate resources have been allocated to this project. A diagram of the implementation plan and the project team, as well as their roles and responsibilities, have been provided on the implementation plan document. Chair, the timelines for the development of the cost allocation manual have been stipulated in the project plan timelines. The project, Chair, has been budgeted for, and the approval of this budget is going to be done by the board of Egoli Gas by the end of November 2025. Chair, Egoli Gas has obtained RFQs from potential service providers for the full implementation of the RRMs. Chair, with noting Table 1 on page 6 and the detailed analysis contained in Annexure A, the Egoli Gas implementation plan is deemed to comply with the requirements of the RRMs. Chair, the recommendations are on paragraph 14, page 7. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Ngubeni. Members, questions, issues of clarity or points of enhancements? Ms. Maseti is fine. I think for me, one point of clarity, Babu Ngubeni, is on the cost. I think in your verbal presentation, you indicated that in the plan there is an indication of related costs for all that needs to be done. But under page 5, there's a statement to say that there is still going to be an approval of November. Am I reading this correctly, or is there something that I'm missing in relation to that particular point on page 5 under budget/cost containment?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, the budget is informed by the RFQs that went out to potential service providers. So the Egoli Gas is aware of the total cost of implementing the project, and hence that amount that was submitted from the different service providers will be included in the budget and prepared for approval by the board by the end of November 2025. The number, we haven't really included it there. Otherwise, I think we can maybe put it as an enhancement as to what is the exact number that they indicated as the total cost of implementing the project. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, no, thank you very much. I think that will help to enhance the report, but thanks for the response. On that note, members, may I take you to the recommendations which are on page 6, paragraph 14 to 15. It's recommended that the REC notes the Egoli Gas implementation plan submitted in compliance with the requirements of the RRM. On that note, thank you, Ms. Maseti. I also support the noting. We then move on to items that are under the regulation of the petroleum pipelines division, and we will go to item 9. Ms. Mtwa, over to you, ma'am.
Good morning, Chairperson, and good morning, members and colleagues and members of the public. This item will be presented by Mr. Sintumule. If I can just hand over to him. Thank you.
May I proceed, Dr. Sintumule?
Good morning, members. Good morning, members of the management. Today I'll be presenting the Transnet P2Y Ltd cost allocation manual in compliance with the requirements of the RRMs. The purpose of this submission is to request the Regulatory Executive Committee to approve the Transnet CAM submitted in compliance with the RRMs. In May 2011, NERSA approved Transnet Petroleum Storage and Pipeline System. Transnet had complied with all RRM's requirements on that. So the 2011 Energy Regulator decision to approve the CAM while monitoring in the following 2 areas was a pragmatic approach, allowing implementation to begin while flagging specific methodology risk, which have been addressed as I will be presenting further in terms of the comparison of the previous 2011. So if I can just give you a little bit background, Section 2.6.3 of the revised Gazetted RRM Volume 1 prescribed that a licensee is required to submit a revised CAM to the energy regulator every 5 years or as and when required possible, more frequent than in phased 5 years from formal review. So these the requirements of the RRM that we need to review. So then Transnet in this instance, among other licensee, is the first to undertake this. So on 7 August 2025, Transnet submitted the initial CAM, which we call it version 2 to NERSA. The CAM was assessed and using the findings from the audit for the financial year 2025 regulatory financial report, a table we will summarize, which we'll talk to it. And I want to emphasize that when we're working on this CAM, since it's a collective, we work with our colleague in gas because also there's a CAM for which was submitted on the gas. So when we had this discussion with Transnet, we were working together throughout the divisions. So then we had a meeting. After a meeting between the energy regulator and the Transnet RMS working group on 7 October, because we initiated a meeting so that we wanted to understand and clarify certain things. Transnet amended the version 2 and resubmitted the documents on 31 October. The Transnet amended include an explanation, which is there on page 7, on the clarification or on safe status and creditors control accounts and their use in CAM, as well as the difference in comparison estimates used in tariff application revenue reverse disclosure. So Transnet seemed to have complied with other requirements on CAM. And members, allow me to give you the comparison for what was submitted in 2011 versus the amendments which have been made by Transnet currently. The comparison, which are in table 1, reads as follows in terms of the elements of scope of business structure. The CAM which was submitted by 2011, it talked to 3 business, which were petroleum gas then regulated, which had a 4 subsystem. Now the current one talked to explicitly define 4 regulated business area, petroleum pipeline, to pipeline gas, petroleum gas, non-regulated. And now, if I can go to cost allocation methodology to say what it looks in 2011, it was only a high-level description of 2 separation steps. But when you look at the current now, it introduces a detailed multi-layered SEP allocation process with specific cycle for different cost types. When you look at the guiding principle, it only listed principle for causality, but when you look at that, the principles are deeply embedded into the methodology. And then they introduce again the 80-20 principles steps. Transnet corporate cost. Previously, it briefly described allocation drivers. Currently, it extensively details and provides a dedicated table with a specific pre-agreed cost drivers for every corporate function. And also, just a last one, so that I save a time for the members. There's the regulatory, under the regulatory, statutory accounting. It was minimal discussion implied a direct mapping from general ledger to regulatory reports. Then this one, the current one, the dedication section, on section 11, detailed specific adjustments required. Required actually to cover the reversal of RFC 16 listening page provision to convert statutory accounts to regulatory accounts. I think I will not be able to go through all of them since I will assume I will take the submission has been read the members. So we as a PPR we've deemed the CAMs submitted by Transnet as have met the requirement, given that we also have a meeting among our division with gas and petroleum pipeline to clarify the issue of gross assets which is an allocation mechanism which we used to allocate the first and the other areas which were not we needed a clarity and were clarified on the meeting. Hence, we were able to bring the submission for recommendation. So as a result of that, it is recommended that the Regulatory Executive Committee approve the Trust and Cost Allocation Manual submitted in compliance with the requirements of the RNS. Thank you. My apology, I've got a little bit of self-flu. My apology, members.
Thank you, Dr. Sintimule. Members, any questions, issues of clarity or points of enhancements on this particular submission? Thank you, Ms. Masetti, you may come in.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think from my side, I've got just two issues. The first one is the cost drivers and the time that is when you look at the cost drivers, you also look at the time in respect of the head count in the pipeline division of Transnet, and you will they would have the same personnel that is responsible for pipelines, and the time that they will spend on gas related regulatory activities as well as petroleum pipelines regulatory activities. I would like to understand how that was treated here, because that is quite tricky. How much time they spend, especially if it's the same personnel, they are in one division. How are they split? First of all, because they tend to look at the same gas pipeline in terms of the Lily pipeline, as well as the petroleum pipelines and the storage and the loading, and those loading facilities. So how much time? Because when you really scrutinize the cost drivers, which is something that you really need to agree on when they put the values, how much time they spend on this in terms of the personnel, so that when they allocate cost, you know very well that in terms of this, it is say 40-60, because there's only one pipeline. Yes, it's quite long. There's only one pipeline when it comes to gas, but when it comes to petroleum, there's storage, there's all of these other pipelines. And so one would like to understand how much cost you are going to allocate there based on the time that is spent, and the what you call the personnel that is allocated to look into those matters. So we would like to know if there's the particular cost, and therefore is it a 60-40, say 60 in petroleum, 40 pipe gas? I would like that to at least be answered, because we're talking about real things, and at some point these are things that ought to have been questioned, so that we make sure we don't overcompensate, when in fact the two divisions ought to scrutinize thoroughly how the allocation has been done. So for me, Chairperson, that's just one point, the issue that I think is very crucial when you allocate cost. The other issue is the what you call the cost of at the head office that they used to be included here. If that can also just be clarified with Transnet, how that has been treated, or even the team to look at how that has been treated. The third thing, I just noted this issue of allocating cost on compliance. I think you need to go deeper than just the explanation that is provided by Transnet. You seem to just abandon the concern that you had on this issue of inclusion of cost pertaining to compliance, when in fact the what you call this the table 2 stated clearly that all areas within the risk portfolio are allocated on the basis of head count, with the exception of compliance. You see, so compliance is allocated on an equal basis and so forth. So that's another issue. And then you seem to now succumb to the pressure that has been put by Transnet. All you now say is that while NERSA is not, while NERSA disagrees, with the equal allocation driver, you think that the explanation, the document is consistent in terms of the rationale. I honestly don't understand that. Because it doesn't deal with the fact that you cited what is supposed to be done. And now Transnet gives you an explanation. And then what you do, instead of ensuring that you persist on this so that you get the right reasons and why this should be the case, and then you simply sort of concede to the explanation that is given. I think this will become much more clearer when the cost is actually allocated. But the problem is that in terms of principle, you have already agreed. Now you're going to see this on the cost itself. So these are some of the things that you must take into consideration. And please don't say that the energy regulators 2025 evaluation found the overall corporate cost allocation methodology to be compliant. I don't think that the energy regulator has made this determination, and this is exactly what I wanted to find out. These the corporate costs that were sort of allocated, because previously we never allowed that the corporate cost be included in the tariffs. It has always been an issue that we question. So now to put a statement like this, it is not accurate, because the energy regulator never said that the methodology of allocating corporate cost is compliant. No, the question have been asked for clarification when the tariff has been brought to the energy regulator, not a specific project, making an assessment of the corporate cost, how they are allocated and so forth. I don't recall the energy regulator having looked at that in particular and make a determination as you have indicated here. I don't also recall that there is a specific resolution or decision of the energy regulator that states what you have indicated here. So we must be very careful. I don't think that it is something that you can pull out and have a resolution that speaks to that. I would like Chairperson to leave it here. Yeah, thanks, Chair.
Thanks very much, Ms. Maseti. And I think from my side, that this Ntimule, I just have one comment, because you indicated in your verbal presentation that the submission was done in collaboration or consultation with the pipe gas division. But in some areas, even though you could see that the point being raised applies to both divisions, we just give the petroleum perspective. I thought that we should have given a perspective from both regulatory division. I'll just make one example. You can just check this throughout the documents. For example, in table 1, just the first bullet that talks about the scope and business structure. We are indicating how the entity has been structured. However, when we go to the column on the impact, we're just highlighting on the side of the storage facility, as opposed to really covering as well the pipe gas side of things, unless if the intention really was to then focus the submission on the petroleum pipeline side, even though there was consultation with the pipe gas division. So if you can comment on that, but in my view, having read the submission, I think that's an enhancement that could be considered in this particular submission. Over to you. Any comments? Ms. Masete has raised a lot of points for enhancements and corrections. Do you want to come in on that? Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, members. Oh, do you want to come in, Angela, first?
That's fine. You can go in, Mr. Musu.
Okay. Let me come in on the pointers which I can respond. Then Mr. Haba will also come in. Let me start with the one the chairperson just talked to now. When we're working on this document, we receive it much earlier on August. We work together. So then, in terms of maybe how you draft the documents, given that it's a different division, that's where we thought, okay, let's have a submission for each division. So the initial plan for us and the guests was to present the submission on the same day, so that the members are able to follow in those areas. So the plan was true, but due to other areas of commitments within guests, when I was communicating with my counterparts, the submission was unable to sit on today. But the plan, while we only focus on the side of the petroleum, the purpose was to say, can we do this together so that members have a feel for both divisions, pipeline, gas, and the storage facility. That was the plan. But that enhancement is welcome. So then Madam Masete talked to the issue now to say, in terms of the personnel, when we're looking at the personnel within other regulatory divisions versus the gas, how were they allocated? This is one of the area where you are indicating if we're able to maybe to have an opportunity to the submission, because what we were querying much on the Transnet side, it was the model which is used. They are using what we call an 80-20 principle, where we come from to say, how do you prevent cross substitution among the division, either you can gas versus the petroleum. So these were more just given as an assurance through the meeting, but it was not something which was documented. Because if you can look on the comment we made, we said the energy regulator will continue to monitor areas related to the application of the gross assets value, which is principle which is allocate cost at an 80-20 principle to all the balance sheet item, excluding the PP allocation, which is derived from the NERSA assets register, and see if later refinement may be requested. So even though we have accepted certain allocation principle from a Transnet, for example, the 80-20 type of principle which will be provided. So we have indicated that we're still going to monitor, but we have been given an assurance to say, in terms of the number of the staff, that one we didn't, on the thing, we're just going to say all this component were shared on 80-20 basis. And we said, as NERSA, we will keep on monitoring as we go further. So you can, Honorable Member, talk about the corporate cost, the issue of the corporate cost. The issue of the corporate cost as to how they've been dealt with. I think if you can look on the page 16, there's a table 2 there, which talk about Transnet corporate cost and major cost. For example, evenly, there was explanation that those costs are allocated evenly between operative divisions. We talk about military, for example, material. It was explanation which indicated that the costs are allocated in proportion to the material and the other operation expenditure of each operation division of the administration of the maintenance spent between Transnet Federal and Transnet. And now there was a question of headcount to say, how did you allocate headcount? The explanation which we got from through the meeting from the Transnet was to say the cost of headcount are allocated in proportion to the headcount of operating division, excluding the contract staff. If I can just dwell on that. When you look about the other, maybe the issue of the external revenue, the costs are allocated in proportion to the external revenue of each operating division. So, but I think I should focus mainly on what Madam Masetti asked on the head count, where we said the costs are allocated in proportion. That was the statement which was given, but also given that we'll be given the formula or the system or the methodology, which is a gross asset value for allocation system based on 80-20 principle. So that was what among the divisions within NERSA, we said we accepted, but will be monitoring how fairly does the system in that proportion able to ensure that there's no cross-subsidization among other division. But let me allow me, while I'll be responding to others, let me allow Mr. Haba to come in, since we work together on the document. Thank you.
Thank you. Morning, members. In terms of the different cost driver allocations, I think it was one of the issues that we wanted the updated CAMs to be clarified by Transnet when we're having those meetings. Just not to take too much time, in terms of the procedure in classifying those costs, Transnet does classify them, whether they are shared costs or whether they're indirect costs or direct costs. And those are pulled into the relevant cost centers in terms of whether typical head office costs or Transnet corporate costs or actual costs incurred in the provision of the service itself. And they stated that there is an automatic allocation via their subsystem using predefined and auditable cost drivers such as direct labor or consolidated direct costs. And this is based on the gross asset valuation method. And just to explain a little bit in terms of the gross asset valuation is to use the value of assets that are most prominent within the three regulated divisions in terms of allocating those costs, if they are then classified as direct costs themselves. I think maybe a simple advantage would be if these costs are identified to be shared costs, such as labor, as Ms. Masetti had put it, then they would look at the value or the gross asset valuations for each of the divisions, and then it's split between that cost, or that shared cost is then split based on the gross asset valuation. I hope that is a little bit clear for members. In terms of the head office costs and how they treated, it is a critical and complex area in terms of this submission, and in terms of the CAM, there are clearly the two separate, it allocates these differently to ensure the cost causation and to prevent cross subsidization. Sorry, Ms. Masetti's hand is up.
Yes, Ms. Masetti, you may come in. Ms. Masetti has written some of her question on the chat. Ms. Masetti, you may come in.
Thank you, Chairperson, for the opportunity. Really, my questions are meant to guide and perhaps also to take these questions seriously, because if you don't scrutinize the issue of cost allocation, and the main thing with it are the cost drivers. Now, when you do cost drivers, you don't just take a scientific method that the licensee is telling you about. You question that method, you scrutinize that method, because they can't just assume, and they're not even taking you through the kind of exercise that they have embarked on. It's important that they tell you about the exercise that you have embarked on in trying to justify why they have allocated this much. Where, for instance, do they get, I'm not just picking up on the gas part only, but I'm also even touching on that issue of compliance, to even say that, well, when you tell us about compliance, where is the document that shows us what is your compliance strategy here? How does it get implemented? How many are focusing on compliance? How much time do you take in looking into compliance? Those are the things that you look at in terms of the cost drivers. What drives this cost to be at this much? That's what you do, not what you simply say, well, they say that there must be allocation to compliance, and because they say that, therefore you just left it like that on corporate. No, it doesn't work like that. The time and the other factors that they take into account, that's what drives the issue of cost. Now, it's not what you're going to come up at a high level and just generalize. Now, even on the issue of the shared cost, you must understand the risk that are involved in the shared cost. And in most cases, those shared costs are subjective, because with the others, you can at least use certain and specific measures for the direct cost. Then you can also ask specific questions, so that if you have allowed them and you are quite happy, then that's your baseline, and then you are fine. But if then you come to the shared cost, that's where they will then load, and then you won't be able to actually tell how much, what drives them to now in this division of pipeline at Transnet, because they deal with pipelines pertaining to gas as well as petroleum. In gas, yes, it's one thing to tell us about the asset. It is another when you say how many people focus on the gas pipeline, which is one pipeline which crosses at different regions, which is the Lily pipeline. How many? Then they must be the one that come up front about all of these activities, that, well, we've allocated 3 people or so, and these 3 people, this is the kind of work that they do. This is the frequency of that work that they do in the Lily pipeline, and this is the time that they take in the Lily pipeline. As a result of that, we therefore, from 100%, we therefore allocated 20% or 15%. And why 20% in the first place? So I'm giving you the practical thing. It's not something that you assume. It's not the science or scientific thing that you now say, they say 20% and therefore they're 80%. These questions you ought to have asked them, even for petroleum. Why 80% for petroleum? How many people from the personnel that is allocated to the pipeline division of Transnet? How many, and what do they do? How much time do they spend on this? So that you can understand why they then said most of the cost are triggered by these kind of activities from the pipeline division. Anywhere you go, once you scrutinize cost and the cost drivers, these are the kind of questions that you would ask, not because they will be telling you about the asset there and the asset there only. No, you go deeper than that and you ask these kind of questions so that you get clarity. And if there is any value that is added by corporate, these corporate costs that they are telling you about, what are those corporate costs? How do they, impact on the business of petroleum? How much time? Why do you allocate this much? Why should it not be 1%? Because these are not people that are doing this work on a day-to-day basis. And why in the first place must they add a corporate a cost into the petroleum pipeline business. So these are the kind of questions that you do to scrutinize when you come here. And before you can now say to the regulator, this we are quite comfortable with, and the cost is allocated. But as I indicated, Chairperson, this is how it's done. But I don't know then at the stage when, if we accept the principles, at the stage when they allocate a specific cost, if we're now going to take the 80-20% that we're not happy about. What I would suggest is that we subject this to improvements by Transnet in the areas that we have indicated. The team will have the recording, and the team must ask these questions and indicate to Transnet the reservations and concerns by NERSA in terms of this even the shared cost. You put the shared cost, and then you ask them all the things that we have guided on. I think that for me, Chairperson, will be the way to go, because really this is something that they ought to have scrutinized, the team that is here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Masetti. Colleagues, I hope those were points of enhancements of this particular submission. And on that note, I think we'll request that the team then take it back and enhance it to align with those inputs made by Ms. Masetti. And I think from my side, I wanted to ask as to whether what is the team's plan in terms of ensuring that there is no duplication in terms of what you have done as an assessment together with pipe gas, or rather with pipe gas, considering that the submission is more aligned on the pipe gas side. And I think that the Sentimula indicated that the plan was to have the two submissions from both petroleum pipelines and pipe gas coming at the same time. I think that separation really is making it difficult for us as members to see the comparison and also possible areas of duplication in terms of what needs to be submitted to petroleum pipeline and pipe gas. So will it be possible for the team to ensure that at least we try and have those two submissions at the same time, or we have this one when we enhance it such that it becomes a joint submission that highlights all the areas from both regulatory division? It's up to you to decide on what's best to do with this particular submission. But for me, it's important that we see the comparison and also be given assurance that there's no duplication in terms of the costs that needs to be considered by the regulator. Will it be fine, colleagues, that we, or rather it is a decision, not fine, can we take the submission back for enhancements to cover up those areas raised by the members in the meeting? That is Sentimula. You find with that? Is everything clear in terms of what needs to be done to enhance the submission?
Yeah, yes, Chairperson, I heard clearly the Madam Masetti talking about the issue of the compliance with the strategy, time spent for gas pipeline frequency, value add for the corporate overheads.
Yes,
then also
but is there,
yes.
Sorry to interject. Is there anything that is not clear to you on what needs to be done in enhancing the submission? That was just my question.
No, all is clear. The guidance have been taken. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Thank you, colleagues, for the submission. And we're not saying we're not noting what you have done. We do note your work. However, the view is that please, you can do more than what you've given by enhancing as directed. We then move on to the last item on our open on our agenda for the open meeting, which is item 10. Ms. Mtwa, if you can guide us or tell us who's going to lead the submission to the committee. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. It's still Mr. Sentimula who will assist on this one. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me take you through the BTT. Members, the purpose of this submission is to request the Regulatory Executive Committee to approve BTT CAM submitted in compliance with the requirements of the RRMs. BTT submitted its CAM on 15 October 2025 in compliance with the requirements of the RRM. The CAM submitted by BTT was evaluated by the RRM specialist. The CAM was deemed to have met the criteria as set out in the cost evaluation matrix. I have set out a table which I will go through a few silent issues which we have tried to evaluate. The issue for cost allocation and separation methodology for allocation is deemed to have been well addressed, which we did say to refer to the section 8, which is in line with the RM volume 1. Fractionalization of the cost and categorization of the cost. It is worth noting that BTT is one legal entity operating facility in Durban, Richards Bay, Isando, with its head office in Durban, which include various support functions for the entire business. The only regulated activities conducted by BTT occur at its Richards Bay tank terminal, which itself also perform non-regulated activity. One of the main cost drivers used by the BTT in its tariff application to allocate indirect costs is its tank capacity. Categorization of the cost. BTT declassified costs according to the guidelines outlined in the RM 1, which specify that costs should be categorized as fixed or variable. Given that BTT is an asset-intensive business and incurs its main costs regardless of whether it stores any product, the majority of BTT costs will be classified as fixed. The CAM approval is deemed to have met address under the page 19. Overheads, capitalization relates to construction work in progress. BTT has no overhead capital rate for construction work in progress at the time of development of the CAM. It is recommended that the Regulatory Executive Committee approve the cost allocation manual submitted by Bidvest Terminal in compliance with the regulatory reporting manual. Thank you, and over to you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Ndati Sintumole. Members, any questions, issues of clarity, or points of enhancement on this particular submission on the CAM of Bidvest Terminals, Bidvest Tank Terminals? Maseti?
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, it is sort of the same scrutiny on the cost drivers. When it comes to cost allocation, it is always about the cost drivers. So if they can give us assurance, I've already guided in terms of how and what questions are being asked, so that when they bring it here and now they say, well, we analyzed it and we have done our independent verification, including the benchmark to check other tanks for the other licensees. We think that Bidvest, in the way that they've allocated cost and the levels of cost for this, we think that they are fine, they are competitive compared to the others. And then also to indicate, if you can just switch off your mic when we're speaking, just like we do as members. And also just to indicate that you are satisfied in terms of the questions that you posed to a Bidvest tanks in terms of scrutinizing this. That's all from my side, Chairperson, and I'm doing this so that now they at least know, even during the monitoring of the actual cost when they are now put here. But what is important is to get the principles right, because here they will tell you this is what we have done. This is the point of departure. So if you fail here, then you come later on when they now allocate the cost and put now the real cost, and you start seeing now that the costs are too much. It becomes a bit difficult, because it means it will force us to go back and question the cost drivers, yet we did not question them at the time we're supposed to. That is the whole point of me asking these questions. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Ms. Maseti. PPR team, do you believe all the comments raised in the previous submissions are covered in this particular submission? Otherwise, we would have to also do the same as the previous one. Mr. Simtimule? Anyone? Okay.
Thank you, Chairperson. Maybe maybe the only difference we can be Transnet as a big entity versus to BTT. BTT, you find that its operation, especially the regulated activity, you amount around 30% of its own business, so they are not much on the regulated. That is the bitumen and the other things which they don't regulate. And what I did with BTT members is that I work within the PPR division with the with licensing divisions who go and do a work and visit these facilities. So I did consult my licensing colleague in terms of the CAM, and they've assured that yes.
Just minimize your response to whether the comments raised in the previous submission, do you believe that they are adequately covered in this particular submission? We do know the processes that you follow internally in terms of getting to prepare and make this particular submission. So if you can indicate that they are adequately covered and there are no issues, and any of your other colleagues can come in to just support you if they want to. Can you respond in that particular manner so that we can move on to other items?
Okay, thank you, Chairperson. Because the member requested that they want to see them on the documents, rather maybe talking to them, I can allow that I go and revise so that they are aligned to what to the members' guidance, and so that members, they want to see them explicit in the documents. So I think I can go and revamp as the previous CAM submission so that I align with the guidance from the members. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Boko?
Thanks, Chairperson. I just wanted to also assist in giving members comfort of this allocation. BTT has regulated and non-regulated activity. The non-regulated activities is for chemicals, and then there is petroleum. If we can go quickly to the green P, page 126, the very last page of the submission. So the cost driver used is therefore that of the asset base. They've given us a long list of all their assets, and then they've allocated all the shared and indirect costs based on the asset based for the two activities, right? And then all of that allocation is showed here. So in my view, if members can just look at that page, I think we can get comfort that the allocation and is done adequately, and the driver is purely the asset or capitalization ratio between regulated and non-regulated activity for this one. This one is pretty straightforward, not as complex as the Transnet one. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you for that. Ms. Maseti, are you happy with this explanation on page 126 on the separation of the regulated and non-regulated, and also the assets that have been put in the company's asset in the rep of the company? Are you happy with that?
Chairperson, I'm fine with that. They must just take note of all of these things that we have raised, including the corporate cost overheads and the corporate overheads and all of that. But they must also understand the risk of not doing things right at this stage, and then will force us, once we see the figures, us to now start questioning the issue of the cost drivers, number one. Number two, when they have not done competitive benchmarks, again, that will cause us to sort of overcompensate in terms of the tariffs. But I would, with these comments that must then be recorded, I will be happy if if yes, we approve, and then, but they need to still do a follow-up on these matters, because this is this document, we need to get it right. So if you can try and do some further work on terms of questions, so that where you need to bring it back for improvements in certain areas, you can still do so. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Seti, for that input. I think then that this into what we basically saying as a committee is that since this is a fairly a straightforward CAM, is not as complicated as a Transnet one, we are going to, as a committee, approve it. However, this is subject to you going back and looking at whether all the other issues like the cost drivers have been really properly interrogated, and competitive benchmarks, etc., and take into account all the other points that I won't mention that were raised in the other submission. If you believe that there's a need to resubmit this particular submission, submitted with those enhancements that have been mentioned in the previous submission. On that note, Ms. Massetti, can I get an indication that you support the approval, which is subject to the review of the submission? If there's anything that needs to be covered that is not adequately covered, a new submission can be brought back covering those areas. Thank you, Ms. Massetti, and thank you. I support that. That was the last item on our opened agenda for the meeting. Let me thank you, the members, particularly Ms. Massetti, who's with me in this meeting, managers and support staff, and all those that have joined us from different platforms. Thank you very much. The open session of our meeting